Every financial era begins with a whisper, a shift so quiet that only those who pay attention can hear it. Right now, beneath the noise of stock tickers and crypto headlines, something ancient is stirring again. The same force that once crowned kings and collapsed empires is back in play. And if you've noticed that gold prices are climbing while the news stays strangely silent, you're not imagining it. The smart money already knows what's coming. For thousands of years, gold has carried a mystique no other asset could match, a symbol of permanence in a world built on promises. But in 2025, something unusual is happening. Millionaires across continents are quietly pulling their wealth out of paper assets and channeling it into gold. Not tech stocks, not real estate, not crypto. Just the same glimmering metal that ancient rulers buried in their vaults. Why now? What are they seeing that most people can't? Stay with me because by the end of this video, you'll understand that gold isn't merely a precious metal. It's a message, a warning. Before we dive deeper, I want to know something. Where are you watching from and what time of day is it? I ask because your answer already says something about gold's meaning. The story of gold changes with geography. For Americans, it's a shield against inflation. For Europeans, it's protection from a fragile banking system. And for people across Asia, the Middle East, or Africa, it's survival. A way to preserve value when currencies fail and governments falter. Here's the truth. The global financial system runs on confidence, nothing more. From your savings account to the stock market, everything depends on trust. The belief that money will hold its value. That governments will pay their debts. That banks won't collapse. But lately, that trust has been cracking. Inflation has eaten away purchasing power. Central banks are drowning in debt. Political and geopolitical tensions are shaking alliances and currencies alike. And every time confidence breaks, gold rises from the shadows. Let's start with inflation, the quiet thief. Over the last few years, governments printed unimaginable amounts of money to keep their economies alive through crisis. That money didn't vanish, it soaked into the system, inflating the price of everything: homes, food, energy, healthcare. The solution came in the form of higher interest rates, but by then the damage was permanent. Real wages stagnated. The dollar, euro, and yen all lost silent chunks of their power. The wealthy understand this game. They don't trust the official numbers. They see their purchasing power shrinking in real time, and so they turn to the one thing that can't be manufactured by decree: gold. But inflation is only the surface of the story. The deeper issue is fragility. For over a decade, the world has been addicted to cheap money. Corporations, governments, even households built their existence on borrowed funds. Now that interest rates are rising, that addiction is turning poisonous. We've already witnessed bank failures, debt scares, and liquidity shortages. The system is trembling and the elites know it. Gold requires no bank, no internet connection, and no politician's promise. Its value doesn't depend on anyone keeping their word. It simply exists. There's also a psychological layer to this. Wealthy investors aren't chasing quick returns, they're buying stability in a storm. Historically, gold demand has always spiked right before major realignments, before wars, financial resets, or the collapse of monetary systems. Before World War I, nations hoarded it. Before the end of Bretton Woods in the 1970s, demand soared again. And today that same pattern is repeating. Central banks from China to India to Russia are buying gold at record pace, trimming their exposure to the US dollar. That's not coincidence, it's a global signal. When governments themselves start stockpiling gold, it means they no longer trust their own paper promises. Millionaires are simply following the trail. We can group these gold buyers into three mindsets. First, the defensive investors, those protecting their wealth from inflation and currency decay. They're not chasing gains, they're preserving what they've built. Second, the strategic players, those treating gold as a geopolitical hedge. They see the rise of BRICS nations, the talk of new trade currencies, and the slow unraveling of US dominance. They know gold will be the bridge between the old and new systems. And finally, the opportunists, those who understand that when fear becomes mainstream, gold prices explode. They're not buying safety, they're buying timing. But the biggest misunderstanding is this. This gold rush isn't about gold itself. It's about trust, or rather, the loss of it. Gold is simply the mirror reflecting how fragile our modern economy has become. You don't need to be rich to see it. Just look around: record debt, rising prices, stagnant savings, and government spending like tomorrow doesn't exist. The system depends on inflation to function, yet inflation destroys savings. It's a quiet transfer of wealth from the public to the powerful. Gold resists that transfer. It doesn't pay interest, but it doesn't lie either. No CEO can mismanage it. No government can default on it. It's not a promise, it's proof. That's why the smart money is moving there quietly, not because they're romantic about the past, but because they see the future forming. Every empire in history, Rome, Britain, America, eventually weakened its currency to prolong its dominance. And each time, those who held gold preserved their power. The modern economy may be digital and advanced, but the laws of collapse haven't changed. When faith in the system breaks, capital runs to reality. Millionaires aren't buying gold for glamour. They're buying it for survival. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The reason they're buying gold isn't just fear. It's strategy. Because behind this quiet accumulation lies a much bigger story, one that could redefine the very meaning of money itself. Let's take a closer look at what's really happening beneath the surface of the global markets, because the story of gold in 2025 isn't about speculation, it's about survival. By the end of 2024, gold demand reached levels the world hadn't seen in generations. Central banks, from Asia to the Middle East to Europe, quietly accumulated over 1,000 tons, the largest purchase in modern financial history. China alone added hundreds of tons to its vaults, expanding its reserves with an almost strategic precision. These moves weren't made for show. They were made in silence, behind the scenes, because the biggest financial players never announced their intentions, they positioned before the storm. And it's not just governments. Private vaults across Singapore, Dubai, and Switzerland are filling faster than ever. Wealthy families, hedge fund founders, and global investors are moving their fortunes into physical gold, not ETFs, not futures contracts, not paper claims. Real, tangible bars, heavy, cold, and untraceable. Because when crisis strikes, paper promises are worth nothing. Only what you can touch, what you can hold, matters. Gold's true power isn't in its price. It's in its independence. Every other asset in the world is someone else's liability. Your stocks depend on CEOs making the right decisions. Your bonds depend on governments paying their debts. Your savings depend on banks staying solvent. But gold doesn't depend on anyone. It has no counterparty risk, no quarterly earnings, no political agenda. It simply exists. That's what the wealthy understand. And it's exactly what the public forgets. Now, critics love to argue that gold doesn't produce income. It doesn't pay interest. It doesn't compound. And they're right, it doesn't. But that's because gold isn't designed to make you rich. It's designed to keep you rich. It's the fireproof vault in a burning system. You don't need it when everything's fine, but when the house is on fire, it's the only thing that survives the flames. History has proved this again and again. Think of Germany in the 1920s, a nation collapsing under hyperinflation. One day you could buy a house for a few thousand marks. A month later the same house cost millions. Those who held cash lost everything. Those who held gold preserved their wealth and passed it on. Or look at Argentina, where generations have seen their savings obliterated by inflation, default, and currency reform. Families who quietly kept gold coins survived every collapse. Now bring that pattern forward to the present day. Inflation is rising again. Global debt has passed $300 trillion. Geopolitical tensions are climbing. And the world's trust in institutions, governments, banks, even currencies themselves, is quietly dissolving. The wealthy see it. They always do. They're not reacting to chaos. They're preparing for it. And here lies the irony. While the rich are filling vaults, the average person is being told gold is outdated, a relic of the past. Turn on the news and you'll hear, just invest in the S&P 500. Stick with the dollar. Trust the system. But behind closed doors, many of those same advisors and policymakers are buying gold for themselves. It's the oldest trick in finance, tell the crowd to hold paper while you buy reality. And gold isn't alone in this quiet rebellion. Silver, platinum, even copper, commodities with physical utility, are rising too. Not just because of industrial demand but because of something deeper, distrust. When people lose faith in paper promises, they look for value that can't be manipulated by keystrokes. So when millionaires buy gold, they're not just purchasing metal. They're buying freedom from governments, from banks, from algorithms, from systems that can be paused, taxed, or confiscated. They're saying, I want something that will still matter even if the internet goes dark. Something that will hold value even when the markets collapse. Something real. And make no mistake, this quiet shift won't remain quiet for long. All it takes is a single spark. A debt default, a bank run, a currency shock, and suddenly panic becomes public. The same people who ignored gold for years will flood into it overnight, but by then the price will have already moved. The wealthy aren't reacting late, They're positioning early because they understand one universal rule of money: when confidence breaks, everything reprices. And gold always rises from the ashes of paper wealth. But this story goes beyond finance. It's about power, who controls it, and who's preparing to take it back. The millionaires and billionaires buying gold today aren't chasing short-term profits. They're reading the oldest script in economic history, the script of empires. Every empire begins the same way, with hard money, discipline, and order. And every empire ends the same way, with debt, corruption, and collapse. Rome started with pure silver denarii, the backbone of its power. As the empire expanded, it diluted the silver with cheaper metals until the coins were worthless. The British Empire did the same with paper pounds, funding wars and colonies until confidence cracked. Now the American empire walks that same road, replacing gold with credit and discipline with debt. The US dollar's dominance is not eternal, and it's showing cracks. For decades, the dollar was untouchable, the global reserve currency that everyone trusted. But when nations start trading oil, technology, and raw materials outside the dollar system, that's not background noise. That's a signal, the same signal the world gave before every past transition. The Dutch guilder fell to the British pound. The pound gave way to the US dollar. And now the dollar stands on the same cliff edge. This time, though, the world is different. It's more connected, more digital, more fragmented. The BRICS nations, led by China and Russia, are building their own networks of trade and finance, systems designed to function independently from the West. Blockchain has created currencies governments can't easily control. And right in the middle of this financial transformation stands gold, the neutral bridge between all sides. The elites know this. That's why central banks are hoarding gold like their future depends on it, because it does. In every financial reset, the side holding the most gold shapes the next system. When trust in money disappears, weight becomes the new power. To understand the psychology of this, you need to think like the ultra-wealthy. For most people, inflation is an inconvenience. Groceries get pricier, savings lose value. But for the rich, inflation is existential. Their fortunes aren't built to last a year, they're built to last centuries. They can't afford to rely on a system that erodes value by design. So they diversify, not just across industries but across borders. Real estate in Switzerland, art in London, private companies in Singapore, and deep underground and fortified vaults in Dubai and Zurich, gold, the ultimate anchor. And there's another reason they're so cautious. History has shown that when financial systems crumble, governments often come for their citizens' gold. In 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, making it illegal for Americans to own most forms of gold. People were forced to surrender their coins and bars for paper dollars. Soon after, the government revalued gold and quietly devalued the dollar, a massive wealth transfer from the public to the state. That's why modern elites don't store gold in plain sight. They keep it overseas in private vaults beyond political reach. Not because they're paranoid, because they've read history. They know how desperate governments act when the system starts to break. But there's something deeper here, something philosophical. This rush to gold isn't just a financial strategy. It's a rejection of illusion. In a world of virtual money, speculative assets, and billion-dollar companies built on code and confidence, gold remains real. You can't delete it. You can't hack it. You can't inflate it away. And that's what terrifies governments most. Because gold is one of the few assets they don't control. It can't be created at will, taxed by algorithm, or frozen with a click. The more people realize that, the more fragile the modern system becomes. Now imagine the moment everything breaks. A financial crisis worse than 2008 hits. Banks restrict withdrawals. Markets tumble. Currencies wobble. The world looks for stability and finds none. This time, governments can't bail everything out. The debt is too large, the trust too thin. Their only option is to print more, trillions upon trillions, igniting the next wave of inflation, maybe even hyperinflation. And in that moment, gold will explode in value. But it won't be about profit. It'll be about survival. Because when the dust settles, only tangible assets remain standing. But here's the tragic part. Most people won't have it. The wealthy will. Central banks will. But the average person, the one told for years that gold was a barbaric relic, will be left holding devalued paper. That's why this quiet gold rush isn't a fad. It's a warning. It's the canary in the coal mine, the same behavior that has preceded every great financial reset. The public always wakes up too late. What happens next? At first, it'll feel like nothing. Inflation might cool. Markets will recover. Governments will declare victory. But underneath, the cracks will deepen, debt rising, wages stagnating, currencies losing credibility. Then, suddenly, something snaps. Maybe a major bank fails. Maybe a government defaults. Maybe faith itself collapses. And when that happens, the rush begins. Everyone will want gold, but there won't be enough to go around. The price will skyrocket, yes, but that's not the real story. The real story is who already owns it before the panic begins. Because wealth doesn't disappear in a crisis. It moves from those who trust the system to those who see through it. From the unprepared to the prepared. That's what this moment is about. The millionaires buying gold today aren't running from fear, they're running toward freedom. They're buying control, privacy, and certainty in a world that's losing all three. In the end, gold isn't just a metal. It's memory, a memory of every empire that fell, every currency that failed, every illusion that collapsed. It's not the asset of fear. It's the asset of foresight.